Hey, what's up, guys? And welcome to Ugly Stacks Week 4. And today we're going to be highlighting a game between two defenses, which are bottom five in points allowed to the QB position. They are bottom two in points allowed to the running back position. Both are bottom three in yards per pass attempt and bottom two in touchdown rate allowed. These are two horrible teams, horrible defenses, and this game has sloppy shootout written all over it. It's the game of the week, and it's not being played in Buffalo. So stay tuned, and we're going to get into it. Hey, what's up, guys? Simon Edwards at Pumacom with Heat Seeker Sports, and you're watching the Week 4 NFL Ugly Stack Show. We're going to get into a game here in a second, but if you could please hit the like button, it helps us out big time. Hit subscribe to get all the updates for when we put out shows. I'm going to be putting out game script shows, which focus on showdowns and Draftkings showdowns, breakdowns for all these island games. I might do one for the Jacksonville game. If I get 20 likes on this video, then I'll put one out for the Jacksonville game. So that's what our target is. We're looking for a 20 likes to get the Jacksonville game in London tomorrow. So hit that like button. The game we're focusing on right now is going to be the Chicago Bears versus the Denver Broncos. That's our game of the week. And as we all know, both of those teams have been awful to start the season. Chicago is in disarray. It looks like they're questioning their quarterback. They're questioning their coaching staff, like they're questioning the entire organization. Everybody is off of Chicago right now. Nobody likes Chicago, which leaves it in a interesting spot for GPPs this week, with Justin Fields having the ability that we know that he's shown in the past, and he's facing off against a brutally bad defense in Denver, who's just got destroyed by the Miami Dolphins last week. Both of these teams are in get right spots. Russell Wilson is the quarterback on the other side. He's obviously had talent in the past. He's been better this year than he was last year, but we haven't seen him have a breakout game just yet. We have not seen Justin Fields have his breakout game yet either. So this is going to be an interesting game between two teams with their backs against the wall, with everything set up for a sloppy shootout that we could ask for in this game. And it's just a perfect setup to try to build a stack around when we want to look for value, when we're trying to jam in some of these guys from the higher total games on the slate this week, namely being the Buffalo Bills versus the Miami Dolphins. We got the Chargers versus the Raiders. That's a 47.5 total. The Buffalo Miami game is a 53.5 total. And we got some other interesting ones here that we can try to get players jammed into by finding value in some of these ugly stacks. So let's take a look at how we can do maybe a build this week with these teams. So we're going to focus on the Denver game right now. We'll get those guys checked off. And I want to build this first stack with Justin Fields, like just to get this thing going. And we also have Javonte Williams. He is in a situation where he's getting the most of the work in Denver, but he has not really been in a situation yet to have a breakout game. but it's good indicator that he's getting the work, even though he's coming off of that knee injury. So I'm going to plug in Javonte Williams as a running back in this game. So we got Fields and we got Williams so far. As far as Fields as a stacking partner for him, we saw DJ Moore score a touchdown last week, and he's been brutal this year. He's been a bad player all around. He hasn't like meshed well yet in Chicago, but we did see, we saw some hope in the preseason for DJ Moore and Justin Fields connection. We just haven't seen it come to fruition yet. There's all sorts of just general chaos going on with these Bears this year. The team kind of abandoned the approach that they used last year with giving more designed runs for Justin Fields. And for the first couple games of the season, it was just killing them. So week 3, they started to design a few more plays for him in the running game, which is good. It opened things up a little bit more. And Denver has been brutal against the passing game. So that leaves a door open for DJ Moore here to kind of have a breakout game as the lead target for Denver. And he's only 5,600. So let's plug him in. And that's going to leave us with like a decent chunk of salary left to complete this lineup. So I want to get some of these guys in from the higher total game, the Miami versus Buffalo game. So I'm going to go look at that next. Miami versus Buffalo. I kind of like Jalen Waddle this week. He's in a good situation, and he's back this week. And I think that with a game like this, I think Waddle might be targeted a decent amount this week. So I'm going to plug in Jalen Waddle. Let's see. Who else are we going to plug in here? I'm going to look at the Buffalo side. I like Stephon Diggs. I think Stephon Diggs is an easy one to plug in here with his matchup against Miami. We're looking to stack this game. Miami, they haven't been giving up a whole bunch of points to wide receiver, but they're in the middling tier when it comes to points that they've given up to wide receiver. So let's plug in Stephon Diggs just to give an example of what we can do, with an ugly stack when we're trying to build like a stack like this, a lineup like this. I also want to get another running back in. I want to get James Cook in from this Buffalo game, just to add some more firepower in here. James Cook has been getting a lot of work this year. He just hasn't been getting the end zone, the red zone work. So he hasn't gotten into the end zone yet this year. They've been giving it more to Latavius Murray and Damian Harris when it comes time to getting in the red zone. So, I think that Miami is giving up more runs of 10 plus yards. So I think that James Cook could potentially break one this week and finally get in the end zone. So let's add in Cook there. I'm going to take a look at defense. Let's look at our defense's opportunities for all these games. Let's see. If we scroll down, I like to look kind of in the cheap range here. There's not a whole lot to like at the bottom range here, but I do kind of like the Browns this week at home against the Ravens. I know the Ravens can put up points, but I think that in a division matchup, playing at home in Cleveland, the Browns being one of the best defenses in the league at only 2,800, I like taking the chance of plugging them into a build like that. This leaves us with about 3,700. If we wanted to add someone else from this Denver game, we could check out and see what kind of salaries we're looking at. We're looking at guys like Marvin Mims. Marvin Mims has not had a whole bunch of opportunity But when he's gotten his opportunity, he's been on fire. So he's been scoring, like a decent amount of points based on his usage. Last week he had 16.5 points. The week before that he had 23.3 points. And these are coming off of, like targets of 5 and 2. So he's been really good this year when he's gotten the opportunity. And I think the coaching staff, knowing that they have to do something to get the team going, I think maybe Marvin Mims has more work this week, and he's only 3,900 on DraftKings. So that is a nice play there. If we look at tight ends, if we wanted to go cheap when it comes to tight ends, we scroll down here, looking at guys like Cole Kmet. I don't know if he would fit in that build with Marvin Mims, but you scrolled a little bit down. You got guys like Ferguson on the Cowboys. Ferguson has been getting a lot of targets this year. You got 7 last week. You got 4 the prior week, and you got 7 in week 1. So he's a guy that's getting targeted a lot, and he's cheap at only 3,500. Pat Freiermuth, another tight end that has not really broken out yet this year, and his salary is reflecting that, 3,400. He's the type of guy that we could plug into a lineup like this. And the list goes on. If you wanted to add another Buffalo guy, we got Dalton Kincaid, who is interesting. Cade Otton, somewhat interesting. Chig Okonkwo. I like Chig Okonkwo this week, especially finding out that Treylon Burks is out. So Chig Okonkwo is only 3,100, and he's playing against a Cincinnati defense that's given up points to the tight end position. Cincinnati has not been great against tight end. They're giving up 14, almost 15 points a game, DraftKings points a game to the position. So that is very interesting there. Gives us some cheap options to go to in a build like this. So you can mix and match kind of guys that you want to plug in from that Buffalo Miami game. Maybe you want to take Diggs out and put Tyreek in there or something like that. And maybe have, both those receivers from Miami in there. I mean, there's all sorts of directions that you can go here with adding in this cheap stack. You'd have to probably take Waddle out actually in a build like that. Tyreek is 9,200. You can take Waddle out and replace him with somebody, but gives you an idea of what you can fit into your lineup when you go a little bit cheaper with your main stacks. So I'm going to clear this one out. I want to take a look also at another game that I like. I like Cincinnati versus Tennessee this week. Cincinnati has been very sluggish out of the gates, and that price is that's reflected in the price of Joe Burrow, who's only 6,500 this week. We might not see this type of discount on Joe Burrow again for the rest of the season. And he has, I believe, been removed from the injury report this week. He's been sluggish to get out. He missed the entire training camp. He missed the preseason. He's been hurt with a hamstring, a calf pull or something, calf strain. So he's been a little dinged up to begin the season, and it's showed in just his performances so far. But now he gets one of the worst pass defenses in the league with Cincinnati, who's giving up with Tennessee, who's giving up 21.5 points per game to the quarterback position. They're giving up 18.5 points per game to wideouts, and they're giving up 30 points per game to slot receivers. Well, who's been in the wideout and slot position a lot this year? Jamar Chase has been playing a lot more slot this year, and obviously he's got the wideout role too. But if we're expecting Joe Burrow maybe to be a little bit healthier this week, it would make a lot of sense for Jamar Chase to also have a big week. And Jamar Chase is at somewhat of a discount too, at only 7,800 for one of the top receivers in the league. You compare that to the other big names, and Jefferson is at 9,600 and Tyreek Hill is at 9,200. Stephon Diggs at 81, and the list goes on. Chase is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He's about 6 on the list as far as price this week. So I like Chase in a stack like this. We mentioned Chigo Konku. He's my favorite guy in a game like this to bring back. So let's put him in there. That way we got our little stack there. And let's go back to that Miami game. Let's say we want to go with that Waddle pairing again. We want to pair Waddle and maybe we want to put in James Cook. Want to put Cook in there so we got that representation from that game. Let's check out our defense. Let's go again with the Browns. We can go with any of these cheap defenses that have good matchups. There's a few of them that are like in a decent range, such as the Colts. I don't hate their matchup at home against the Rams. We saw the Rams get killed by Cincinnati last week. Houston's defense has been kind of sneaky this year, and they're only at 2,900 against Pittsburgh, whose offense has struggled. We got the Patriots defense is a little interesting, even though they're playing Dallas, but we kind of saw Dak exposed last week by Arizona, and the offense is not firing on all cylinders this season with the Cowboys. So, there's a few different very cheap defense options there. You also got the Chargers against the Raiders. We don't know who's going to be the quarterback yet for the Raiders this week. So all sorts of interesting defenses down there. If we wanted to take a look at the running back position in this one next, maybe we try to work in one of these Miami running backs. You got Mostert at 6,500. A-Chain is at 5,700. Both those guys are interesting, especially in a build where we're trying to stack as many pieces of that game, but we might want to get a little bit different. I think putting A-Chain in there would be getting a little bit different. And that leaves us with 5,100 per position left for our final two positions. And you can kind of take your pick with directions that you want to go. If we plugged in Diggs would not fit in that build. But if we wanted to put in, let's see, who else has a good matchup this week? Olave's got a good matchup. T. Higgins, if we wanted to double stack Joe Burrow against this horrible Tennessee defense. I mean, you might say, like if Cincinnati takes a big enough lead, won't they turn to the running game? But, the running game has a pretty bad matchup. Mixon's got a bad matchup against that Tennessee defense, which has basically been just a run stopper, total pass funnel defense this year. So, if that's the case, maybe they just run up the score like they have in the past against Baltimore. If we got Higgins in there, that would leave us with $3,400 in salary. We can kind of mess around there. Look at some different options for 3,400. We did have some cheap options. We scroll all the way down here. We got Khalil Shakir, who's also in that Buffalo game. We got Pat Freiermuth if you wanted to double tight end it. All sorts of options down here. Craycraft is out, which is interesting for Braxton Berrios. But Berrios, he's been playing primarily in the slot. So, he would get all the more work with Craycraft out because Craycraft had been taking some reps in the slot. The Bills are not giving up many points to the slot. It's only 11 points per game. So I probably wouldn't necessarily go in that direction, but Braxton Berrios would be an option. How much is his salary? Well, he's 3,600, so he wouldn't work in this build anyways. But Khalil Shakir is interesting with the setup of this game. And Khalil Shakir, if he's running primarily from the slot, Miami's giving up 22 points per game to the slot. Deontay Hardy has been the main slot guy for Buffalo this season, but he is He's 3,100. So there you go. So there's an interesting plug in there. You could kind of just keep looking, keep doing some research on these cheaper guys, because there's a lot of options in here that are definitely interesting. Calvin Austin is an interesting one. He got some work last week against Las Vegas. He got 15 Draftkings points last week. He scored a touchdown. He started to show more work. He got 6 targets last week. He got 4 the week before that, and he got 6 in week 1. So Calvin Austin has been getting some work, and he's cheap at 3,300. And this week he's going against Houston's defense. So even though I like Houston's defense, I like that price tag for the work that Calvin Austin's getting there. So decent options there. If we wanted to do, maybe take a look at one more of these ugly stacks, let's kind of look at, let's see. I don't hate Houston as a ugly stack this week, but we've gone to that well a couple times. So let's take a look more towards, let's go to the Rams and Indy game, because that could be interesting. We got our guy, Anthony Richardson, is back. He's only at 6,700. That salary continues to lag for Anthony Richardson. I'm going to be using him when I can. This could be a good week to use him. He's not too bad of a matchup against the Rams. The Rams have been getting pressure on the quarterback, but I don't think that they've faced a quarterback that can run like Anthony Richardson. So their total of this game is 46.5 points. So that's a high total game, especially considering the price tag on Richardson, 6,700. That makes him seem like a value to me in this game. You got Puka Nacua, who's 6,700. I think he'd be a primary target in this game. I think the matchup is better than it was last week. So Richardson, you could stack him with, I think a lot of people are going Moss this week too. I don't like Moss this week. Moss got his opportunity when Anthony Richardson was out. He went out in the first quarter of that game a couple weeks ago, and that's where Moss started lighting it up. And then Moss had no Anthony Richardson to compete with last week. So I do like having Anthony Richardson over Zach Moss as a pivot. And I think Moss will be, like a decent ownership this week as well. If we're looking at guys that we could stack potentially with Richardson, Michael Pittman has been getting a decent amount of work, and he's only 6,500. Michael Pittman has been getting 11 targets last week, 12 targets the week before, and 11 targets the week before that. As far as his ownership goes, let's see how much ownership he's looking at. Pittman, I'm seeing a projected ownership of like 6% for Pittman. Given that amount of work and given that price, I like using Pittman in this stack. So if we look at that, let's say we get James Cook in there. I want to get James Cook in again on this build. We're hoping for that James Cook breakout week this week. We're hoping that he can break one off that gets into the end zone this week instead of getting stalled out in the red zone. We want to get him some work, some touchdown opportunity. We're putting in, let's put in the Browns again in this build, just for consistency. And that would leave us with about 5,250 left per player. If we wanted to go high at running back, let's see what that could do for us. If we wanted to go with McCaffrey at the top there, that leaves us with 3,900 per position. That's not horrible with that tight end still in there. But what if we wanted to, instead of McCaffrey, let's say like Deebo Samuel is out this week. We have not gotten word on that yet, but it's a likely, I wouldn't say likely, but it's a potential situation that Deebo Samuel might not play this week. So let's put in George Kittle, because George Kittle has history against the Arizona Cardinals where he's done really well, and he's only 5,100 this week. That would leave us with 5,300 left per position. Want to get a Miami guy in there. Let's get Waddle in there again. That leaves us with 4K per position. Probably have to get that second running back in here now because we don't have very much flexibility when it comes to running back. If we wanted to get Khalil Herbert in there, the Denver defense is horrible against running backs, as we've established. He's only 4,700. If you scroll down, let's see if we can find any value running backs. Tajay Spears has been getting more work than Derrick Henry for a couple weeks now. And last week, how many opportunities did he get? He got 4 rushing attempts last week, 8 the prior week. He got 4 receptions last week. I could see the Titans definitely playing from behind, especially if the Bengals can't run the ball and they have to pass the entire game and they're just putting up points. That's going to put Tajay Spears in a good situation to rack up a lot of passing game work. Other guys that are interesting, not seeing too many other guys that are interesting. So maybe not the best direction to go, but if you wanted to go in that direction and we put in, like, let's say Tajay Spears, that would leave you with 3,600 in salary left. So, not the best direction to go, but it's a direction to go. If you wanted to swap out Nakua maybe with Atwell, that gives us another $1,200 to play with. So, those are a few options overall, directions to go in a slate like this. If you wanted to go with an ugly stack to kind of pair with some of these games that are, we're anticipating to go off. With the Bengals, I really like that. I really like that stack. I really like that Chicago stack this week. I think the sloppy shootout is in full effect this week with that Chicago-Denver game. These are the perfect ones. We hit on the sloppy, sloppy shootout, I guess you could call it, Carolina versus Seattle last week. Nailed the Andy Dalton to Adam Thielen and bringing it back with Kenneth Walker, and then putting who do we put in that one? We put Keenan Allen in that one, and a bunch of guys that all of them went off, and the lineup itself ended up scoring close to like 250 points or something like that. It would have been a huge week, but the quarterbacks of the Chargers Viking games ended up going off too, so we didn't quite get the quarterback not scoring as many points in that huge total game, but we did get the awesome performance from Andy Dalton last week. We had a couple other ones too. Deshaun Watson ended up hitting, and then we had another hit too, but it just wasn't enough to overcome both Chalky, Herbert, and Kirk Cousins going off last week. So just another reminder, please hit the like button. If you get to 20 likes on this video, we'll be doing a game script episode for that Jacksonville game tomorrow in London. And that's going to be an interesting game. I already been taking a decent look at that one. If you do hit the like button, we don't get to 20, hit me on Twitter. I'll probably record an episode anyways, and I'll send you a link to the episode, and you can take a look at that. So good luck this week, guys. Hopefully our ugly stacks go off again this week. And until then, I will see you probably for Game Script, looking for 20 likes. Make sure to hit the subscribe on your way out, and we will see you soon.